did you get the email from my poll? I sent, please check the email.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to begin this evening's meeting. The school board meeting of February 23rd, 2021 is now called to order. The time is 6:01. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district mission, which is to ensure each student receives his or her highest personal potential and the district vision to be a world-class school system. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, public comments, consent action items, which include 9 items under academic services, 3 items under business services, 3 items under human resources, 3 items under information system, and 10 items under operations, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Ms. Vaughn?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Thank you. And second, please? Thank you, Ms. Morgan. And please record your vote. Okay, 7-0, motion carries. Ms. Giovanelli, please introduce your guests for the invocation at this time. Ms. Giovanelli, will you speak into the mic, please?
Preaching and singing and playing the guitar since his teens and has been a church ministry since 1982. Currently, he serves as a senior pastor of the Hallelujah Community Church in Fort Myers, Florida. Mr. Unique was born in Accra, Haiti, and moved to Fort Myers in the year of 1995. He studied at the Jackson Baptist Theological Seminary, from which he earned a bachelor's degree and was later honored with a master's of ministry. An effective communicator of God's word, Minister Unique is widely known for his practical and dynamic teaching style, which helps people apply the timeless truths of the scripture in their everyday lives. He and his wife, Beatrice Jacque Castor, have been married since 2003. They are proud parents of 2 teenage girls, Unica and Abigail Castor. Please stand for the invocation. And Minister Castor, thank you.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this school board meeting, which is made up of many members. So as they are going to share in this meeting, please help them to function as a member of one body. As King David say in Psalm 133, verse 1, behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 3, Apostle mentioned, make every effort to keep the unity and the spirit to bond of peace. God, you are the light. I pray that the unity may prevail in our community, in our state, in our country, and in the world. Please help us to be an instrument of peace. Help us to, in the city of the school board, to come together to resolve on the issue that affect us all, including our children. Father, I pray that in the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Ms. Vaughn, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. And thank you, Pastor Castor, for being here today. I would like to read a statement before we go on. It is important that every employee and citizen understands that the district abides by the public records law as outlined by Florida Statute 119. The law is there to protect the taxpayer and support government in the sunshine. Although there are times that we are concerned on how public records are utilized, the district holds steadfast and adheres to the statute. Employees will continue to be kept informed as we address our processes internally, that we protect statutorily exempt information for those who qualify. In addition, there was a recent case against a district involving public records. In that case, a public record email was sent, but never received by the Public Records Office, as it was caught in our cybersecurity filter. The email was quarantined and deleted before it reached the public records email address. In the new age of technology, institutions continuously adjust. As a result, we have made changes to our records request process to ensure that all public records requests are received and processed. The next, and thank you for allowing me to read that. Next, we have public comments. And before I move to Mr. Bruno, I want to make another statement. Since we have returned to the boardroom, the board does not accept email public comments. Any email comments will be included in the minutes. Mr. Bruno, please address the item of public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or in any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a blue card, please put it in the basket provided at the back of the room. If you need a blue card, they are located in the hallway outside of the boardroom. The rules concerning public comment are posted in the back. Public comment will be made from the central microphone in the back. Please be advised that the board does not respond during public comment to remarks made by speakers. At the end of the public comment period, the board chair, Ms. Jordan, will address concerns or the assignment of any concerns or requests to the superintendent. Board Policy 1.181 is in effect and requires everyone to wear a mask on school board property. In addition, for the benefit of other speakers, we ask that you use the sanitization supplies which are provided near the microphone after you speak for the benefit of the next speaker. Speakers and those attending the meeting are expected to act in a respectful manner. The purpose of public comment is to provide feedback on school district issues. Personal attacks on individuals or abusive language are prohibited. In addition, clapping, hissing, and booing, unreasonably loud or offensive language, swearing, cursing, or display of temper are prohibited. Speakers who fail to follow proper decorum in the chambers will be ruled out of order. Any speaker continuing with such remarks will be required to relinquish the microphone per Board Policy 1.11 and may be removed from the chambers. Per Board Policy 1.11, the time per speaker is 3 minutes if there are 20 speakers, 2 if there are 30 speakers, and 1 minute if there are 31 speakers or more. Per the policy, the maximum time allotted for public comment is 1 hour. You will find a countdown on the big screen in the front of the room. Once your time has elapsed, the microphone will automatically shut off. We encourage you to address the board as a whole versus individual board members as they act as a collective body. Please state your name prior to making your comment. Madam Chair, there are 4 speakers that wish to address the board this evening.
Thank you. Please make sure you have completed a blue card if you intend to provide public comments. The blue card is a public record identifying those who speak and providing contact information to staff for follow-up. The blue cards are located in the hallway. Are there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak that has not filled out a blue card? Please, on this side. Anybody on this side? And is there anyone in the back room that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Bruno, will you please proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first speaker is Mr. Anthony Thomas.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Happy New Year. Happy Black History Month. My name is Anthony Thomas. I've come here tonight because I had an opportunity to look at the meeting earlier today. Now, you all said at the beginning of this meeting that you expect a certain amount of decorum with each other and with the public. I was deeply disappointed earlier today when I watched it on television how Gwen Gittens was treated by one of the board members. She actually left, from my understanding, the room in tears. Now, I don't know what is going on here, what the dynamics are. I know there's some kind of Washington, D.C. thing where the president says, the former president says when Congress is trying to provide oversight, he called that presidential harassment. I guess when Gwen is trying to provide oversight over the superintendent, which I would encourage members of this board to do, they call that badgering the superintendent. I don't know where this ideology comes from, but it is very dangerous. You know, Mary Fisher, a good friend of mine, says that the public elect watchdogs, not lapdogs. And what we continue to see here is there are certain members of this board who want to be lapdogs and cheerleaders for the administration. I can tell you, I've been around here 20 plus years, and whenever you have a board, I remember the board that had Browder, Jeannie Dozier, and Shamanic, and all of those people. And whenever they came to the point where they became lapdogs and cheerleaders for the administration, the only thing they did was got the superintendent in greater trouble. We heard the presiding officer speak earlier about the lawsuit by Alfie Oakes. That is symptomatic of a larger problem. This administration that we have, I'm not a fan of it. And I'm not a fan of it because transparency is an issue. But I do believe that diversity needs to be a bigger issue. The board is getting ready to have a discussion, I guess, in the future about the maintenance department. There was supposed to be some kind of audit. Mr. Flock has now left. You know, if you look at our school district, the majority of our minorities work in the maintenance department and the transportation department. We need to have some diversity. Dr. Atkins wants to put an African American as the deputy superintendent. If you look at Dr. Atkins' administration right now, where is the beef, as Walter Mondale would say? Where is the diversity? We need to have a school district that looks like the populations of the students. And we expect Gwen and others on this board to provide that oversight and guidance to the administration. But most importantly, we expect you to be a watchdog and a guardian of the taxpayers' money, because we're seeing time and time again, things are not going well in this district. And there are a lot of us who love this district, we love the people in this district, and we want to see our school district do better. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Melanie, is it Pena? Pena?
Hello, my name is Melanie, and I'm a senior at Cape Coral High School. I'm here to talk to everyone about Wellness Wednesday. So last week we had our Wellness Wednesday, and my class discussed afterwards the effectiveness of it, and we just had a general discussion, and I went home and I thought about it, and then I created a post, and I posted it on social media, and the feedback was overwhelming for me. It reached over 3,000 students, and a lot of the comments said that they found it triggering or unhelpful, or it just wasn't helpful to them. So I'm here to give some feedback on that, because I'm not sure if you guys have received feedback on that. I want to thank you for the effort, because it takes a lot to recognize that mental health is an issue and awareness for it is really important. I'm not here to berate you or bring on negativity or tear you down. I'm here to offer some guidance on what students need and want. A lot of students said that they'd rather the money go to professionals or people with credentials who could come in and discuss helpful tips or something like that. Because right now, the program we're using is Purpose Prep, and they barely have any credentials, and often what they still tell students with trauma or issues is that they just need to move on, or they need to be happy. And a lot of times that just makes students feel worse, and it worsens the problem. So I'm just asking that when you're doing your review of this year, or however that goes, that you look into Wellness Wednesday, and you see if you can manage the money for that a bit better so that it goes into more professional help. Thank you.
Marvin Goetz.
Board members, Dr. Atkins, I'm back. I'm letting you know. This is the first board meeting I've been to in over a year. Because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to make the meetings for personal reasons. But I'm here to tell you that each and every day my substitute teachers have still been covering when school has been open face to face. We are averaging over 300 to 350 absent teachers every day, and we average somewhere between 120 and 150 substitute teachers. That means we got a problem, and kids aren't learning like they should be learning. And one of the suggestions I have, and I've raised this issue before, and that is, I think we need to look at the wages we're paying. With the future government thinking about $15 an hour, maybe it's time we begin to look into the future and consider where we're going to be as far as paying substitutes. Then also we need to provide some sort of health care. The majority of subs are older subs, retired teachers, the same with the bus drivers, same with the cafeteria workers as well. We don't want to catch anything at school and bring it home to our families. So I urge you to begin the consideration, and let's start studying and working out a program so when we go full-fledged in September, we'll be ready to give them something they've been asking for. Thank you very much.
Mayo.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Mayo, and I'm here representing myself. I've been watching this board for years, including today's very lackluster briefing meeting, and I'm not impressed. I've got to agree with Anthony on this. I see board members acting coy and innocent on one hand, only to pivot and stab another member in the back. I see members who express no curiosity about the district's many projects and contracts and seem content to just watch it all happen without questions or interest. I see little attempt to engage the public, the people like me who are taxed, like everyone in this room, for school services and the families of students. It is our community too, and there is little effort to reach out to involve us in a meaningful way, unless it's at the very tail end of a project. I am really distressed at the animosity that some of you direct to Ms. Giddens. And if you're not directing the attacks, it appears that you are ignoring them. Neither one of those reactions are acceptable. You're putting up walls between yourselves and the public. Is it because Ms. Giddens asks questions, wants to involve families in the process, and wants true equity for the students, regardless of where they live? I thought that was the job of each board member. I challenge you to go back and think through your job again. Let's see some curiosity. Let's see some support for each other. You threw her under the school bus, literally, it seemed like. although it wasn't literal, with this Alfie Oaks thing. There was no reason for that to happen. That has been mean, and I expect better of you. Thank you.
Lori Fahey.
Hi, I'm Lori Fahey, and I am also founder of the Facebook groups Opt Out Lee County and Teaching Not Testing. My son is a senior this year, and he has completed his graduation requirement without generating a score on the FSA. It can be done. I'm very proud of him. I'm here tonight to remind you that the parents are the stakeholders and they are at the top of this organization, and to remind parents of that fact. Many parents have been frantic these last couple weeks because they have received notice that their children are required to come into the school building to take the FSA. Many of these students are still being homeschooled or distance learning. They have missed graduations, they have missed proms, homecoming, funerals, grandparents, Christmases. And you want them to come in to the brick and mortar school when you know darn well you cannot enforce the CDC guidelines. We're not capable of it. The schools are not even taking temperatures before the kids enter. And you're going to put our children and our teachers at risk. I would like to ask you to please discuss this. You can call and talk to our state reps, our senators, Governor DeSantis. You can talk to the press about this. I'm not saying for you to say we're not going to give the test, but at least give it the publicity it deserves. People need to know that they don't work for the school district. You work for the parents, and I heard each one of you say while you were campaigning that you were doing it for the kids. So speak up, please. Parents, if you need to reach out, you can find Opt Out Lee County on Facebook or reach me directly, Lori Fahey. Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no further comments.
Thank you. Okay. Melanie, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience and your comments with us. And that's something we can certainly look into. Dr. Atkins, would you please, regarding the purpose prep, if we can just follow up on that? Perfect.
Your mic on?
Okay, so Melody, did you hear that? We're going to have somebody reach out to you. Okay. Thank you. So we will have somebody reach out to you. And actually, we have student advisory. We're starting that up again. And that's something that would be an ideal conversation to have with them when we get, next month will be our first meeting. So that's something that would be a great ideal or topic to discuss. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. Mr. Marvin, thank you so much glad to see you again. Thank you so much. We could not do it without the substitute teachers. You're correct. And we do appreciate everything that you all do to make sure that our kids are educated. And we definitely hear what you're saying. Let's see. And Dr. Atkins, can you respond to Ms. Fahey regarding the FSA? I know that we've discussed that with the legislators regarding testing, but could you maybe elaborate?
Yeah, we are continuing to wait on the Department of Education relative to direction that they're providing our school district. At this point, we believe that they are going to be requiring the administration of the FSA. However, we do not know if they're going to use that for accountability purposes such as school grading, value-added model for teachers, and so forth. This board's platform is that it not be used in that manner, and so that's been clearly communicated, that so it doesn't have a punitive effect on our students and staff this school year. So that's the update, but we're still waiting for additional information. Of course, we had some information that came from the Secretary of Education at the federal level, and we don't know what the state response is to that yet, but I think it's really aligned with this board's platform.
Great, thank you. Ms. Mayo, I can assure you, thank you for being here, and I can assure you that I don't believe that there's anyone up here on this board that does not ask the questions. So we constantly receive information from staff, from superintendent, always have opportunities to ask questions and seek out the answers. And that's something that I think we do really good as a board as far as asking. You may not sometimes hear, the public may not hear us asking questions, but we are definitely behind the scenes working to provide the best possible situation for our children. And I know that, I mean, we're always working to improve our processes and so we can work better as a board. And I know that that's something that I believe that we need to strive on every day to do, because we do have responsibilities. And I think at the end of the day, there is no one here that doesn't have the kids' best interests at heart. And, you know, the board does act as a collective body, and every board member does have a voice, and we are here to hear what they have to say. Mr. Thomas, nice to see you. Haven't seen you in quite some time. And I appreciate your comments, and we hear what you say as well.
I'll just add to that. I mean, I don't know if this helps the conversation or not, but this is actually the third group of individuals, board members that I have worked directly for, and then I've indirectly worked with boards since 2002. And it has been my experience that this particular governance team asks more questions, asks harder questions, which we respond to, than any other team I've ever worked with. So even though not everything is necessarily out here at an action meeting, that the questions that we do one-on-ones or the questions we put out in our board updates that we get through email, believe me, I've never seen a board that works so hard to try to get their questions answers and try to understand the issues. So take it for whatever. That's experience I've seen since 2002, and I think that's a credit to really every single one of the people on this board. Every single one of them asked tough questions.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item will be the approval of the consent action. The documents for action items listed under consent is made available to board members 7 business days prior to the board meetings. We are expected to review all of the materials, and we have the opportunity to speak with the superintendent with any questions that we may have regarding the recommendations. Some of these items have also been briefed or workshopped with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under the unfinished business table items portion of the agenda? Ms. Giovanelli.
Yes, I have 2. K7, approval of ranking RFQ number CQ21-006 K61TA, architectural services for J Elementary and expansion of MM Middle School. And K8, approval of ranking RFQ number CQ21-0062 2A, construction management services for J Elementary and expansion of MMM Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Patrica?
No, thank you.
Ms. Fisher?
I have none this evening.
Ms. Gittens?
I have the same two as Ms. Giovanelli.
Ms. Vaughn?
I have none.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
I have none.
I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda consent items with the exception of the pulled items K7 and K8?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of K7 and K8.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. And please record your vote. Okay, and it's 7-0, motion carries. Okay, we have K7. K7, the approval of ranking RFQ number CQ21-0061TA, architectural services for J Elementary and expansion of MM Middle School. Dr. Atkins, please read your recommendation on the pulled item.
And recommend approval of the ranking of the RFQ for architectural services for J Elementary and the expansion of MM Middle School.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation?
I move to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Second, please. Ms. Morgan? Okay, it has been moved by Ms. Fisher and second by Ms. Morgan. Is there discussion? And I will start with Ms. Giovanelli.
Great, thank you so much. I've really been thinking about this situation that is in East Lee County and regarding this expansion that on a school that we're already building a new school. So in the spirit of transparency and accountability, I think we need to own that we had made this mistake, and so the community understands, so this doesn't blow up like Bonita High School did. So, and the only way to do that is to just come out with this mistake that was made and not caught in September, and was caught, I'm assuming in the last month. I was never made aware of this mistake, and we went out and we christened a beam for a school that was being built that was missing a building, that now we're gonna have 400 students in portables in a brand new school. So I got a big problem with this, and I was elected to be that watchdog that somebody just mentioned, and I was elected to, I'm not elected to get along, I'm here to have the oversight of the district for the constituents that I serve, which is Lee County. So for me, I am having a hard time. I know that we need to have this expansion done. I feel like it should have happened in September when they were building, they broke ground and built the school, which was over the summer prior to our, because it was far gone when we were christening that beam in September. So for me, it's about accountability, owning the mistake. I don't know who, I can only hold the superintendent accountable. I really want to know what other board members knew of this, because I found out about it when it was on this agenda last Tuesday. So my question is, number one, how many other board members know about something that I didn't know? And if so, how do you know something that I don't know? Because no one else seems to be concerned over it, and it's a real problem because it's a huge mistake that was oversight and missed when this building, when this was being contracted to do this last summer. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Yes, I agree with Ms. Giovanelli, but I also have two other things to say about it. One thing is, I toured the new Lambs building last week, and I just thought it was very interesting. The workers were very busy and very proud of what they were doing, and I would stop and ask them questions. And we got around to the back of the building, and this gentleman said, yes, we're almost finished with the basketball court, and it will be ready, and when we need to put portables there. And I stopped and okay, and I just filed it away. And I didn't really ask any questions about it, but it was, I don't know if it was a mistake for him to say that to me, but he did say it. My other reason for not going along with this tonight, yesterday in one of our meetings, we were told by the planning department, we had lengthy discussion about the process of building and the process of RFQs and how we do it and how we involve all the stakeholders. And Ms. Eboss said that they are in the process of developing a scoping project, and there is a proposal. And she said they would be coming back to the board in a couple of months. Well, honestly, I feel that that's too long. The project needs to be transparent and involve all stakeholders. We have a plan for involving stakeholders. We have a site selection process, and when we were building other schools in the East Zone and choosing property, and all the community was involved. So I don't understand why we can't do that. I am concerned that if we just go ahead and vote for this, and actually on the agenda item, just like our last board meeting, the agenda item says approving the architect and the construction manager. But along with that is the process that was already submitted to the architects during the RFQ process. It is public record. You can go on the website and look under Bonfire, I believe it is, and it has all the RFQs and all of the specs, because when the RFQ process is put out there for bids, they have to tell them something. And that's what I asked yesterday. I said, when you present to us something to vote on, besides just the name of the architects that you want to choose from, I would like to see the RFQ that you explained in the meeting to the contractors, to see exactly what it is you said. A simplistic way that I have said it is, if I'm hiring somebody to build a garage for me, I don't just call up people and say, I need somebody to build a garage. They're going to ask me questions. So I'm going to say I need a 2-car garage, and I need a loft on the 2nd floor, and I want a window over here and this over here, which means I have thought it through and I have a plan to tell them. I want to see that plan when I'm voting on this. What did you tell the architects? What are they bidding on? And it's very simple. And I'm very afraid of continuing to just go ahead and rubber stamp these things and say, well, it's okay, they are going to let us know. I don't trust that. I'm sorry to say, but I really don't. I think that our job is oversight, so we need to see what it is that's happening to the taxpayers' dollars, to the stakeholders, the parents, all the things that are going on. And I think we need to take a step back. If it takes a week for everybody to just stop and look at this process and figure how we're going to include the public, the taxpayers, and to be fiscally responsible to them, then we need to do that. And that's why I agreed to pull it tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Atkins.
All right, I'll try to respond to the questions and comments. Okay, first of all, regarding the expansion, One of the things that I think back in 2016 which wasn't contemplated was the movement of the existing Lehigh Acres Middle School to the new facility. So that came afterwards. So that threw a curveball in this process. So I have apologized for that. I have said that I wish if I could undo that decision and do it in a way that I think was communicated more clearly, I would do that. But that's the start of this. And now, I still stand by that is the best decision. And I believe that myself and staff had every intention. We really felt we were communicating, but it's obvious to the contrary based on the feedback that we've received from some board members. But there starts that movement of you're taking that middle school and you're moving it to a new facility. Again, in my opinion, my professional opinion, and I think my staff shares this, as do probably majority of this board, that it's still the right thing to do because the facility there at Lehigh Acres Middle School needs to be renovated. The other thing is that when we were making that decision relative to what MM was going to look like with the capacity, you're looking at what was the capacity that we needed back in 2016 when we made that decision, and that's what that building was designed to do. However, the reason why you see the expansion of that ability is anticipating future growth. We have done this to a number of our buildings, including Lehigh Senior High School, which we expanded out at a later time, knowing that we would need to flex that for the East Zone. So then we get to this more recent decision. I really believe if you look at when I knew that was the department's recommendation to move in this direction, when the board knew, we're relatively close together because this is a very recent decision to go ahead and add that extra building. It was not something that if you'd asked me, a year ago that I thought we were contemplating, I would have said no. I mean, we've got the decision here. And the other thing I could have done is because I knew that this would be, if we went down this road, that I would get second guessed as to why didn't you do that. I knew that was going to happen, but rather than to try to backpedal, I felt, well, what's the right thing to do? It's to move forward with this expansion at the appropriate time. So if you look at how we are staging Lehigh Acres Middle School in terms of what we want to do with whatever we do with the Veterans Park campus and the old Lambs and what we have there on campus versus when we're opening up MM Middle School and when we are going to align J opening up with the expansion of MM, it really aligns extremely well with what we feel the capacity needs of the East Zone are going to be at the grade levels that are going to be impacted. Extremely well. So I still think that we are on track to do the very best plan relative to meeting the needs of our capacity. The last thing I will address is, I just got the text from staff, which is why I have the phone up here, that there is no plans to our Chief Operations Officer knowledge that we're any plan to put portables on the new MM campus. The portables, it costs money to move portables. So we do have portables that are available to other campuses like Lehigh Acres Middle School, and that was part of the plan so that we do know we have a place for students while we're renovating sections of that building because we need that capacity. But we also know that once those portables get beyond 20 years, we get to move them off of inventory. It frees up capacity for us to be able to continue to build in the East Zone and other parts of the county. So I hope that addresses the concern of board members. I do think that both these items is the right thing to do. And I am going to add one other thing. The plan that came forward today that Ms. Ebal shared with you, I think I've said before, boards are different. They're governed differently. They have different expectations. And we talked about that a little bit earlier today. I follow up by saying in terms of how we build buildings, your expectation relative to that is different. We're adjusting to that. Yes, Ms. Gittens, I guarantee you that part of that had to do with your input in terms of wanting to get in the public involved. That's this staff adjusting to a differing expectation. And I have always maintained that I do feel that the community involvement and the board's involvement, I've told staff multiple times, I want the board to bless, literally publicly, what are we going to do relative to Veterans Park, Academy of the Arts, and the old Lambs building in terms of what the configuration is. I'm going to give you the best recommendation that staff can do and the rationale behind it. We're also going to go out to the community for feedback, and then all of that will be provided to you. So those are my comments on both of those items, actually.
Okay, thank you. But I'm going to stick with the one first. So case, thank you for both of it. For case 7, is there any other discussion or comments regarding that? Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, I have to admit, I've been swinging back and forth on this because the rationale I've heard from staff just doesn't fit well with how I feel a school should have been built. And the fact that we keep talking about in 2016, this is the way it was, but in that, well, it would have been almost 4-year period, if you're talking about when MM was started. I mean, there was huge growth in Lehigh Acres, and I don't know. It's very problematical to me when a brand new school, has a bunch of kids in portables, and especially since all of our new security laws after the tragedy at Parkland. We all know that portables are just not as safe. And we also are talking about the fact, as you said, just to move and set up portables is an expense because you have to put in, for rainy season, you have to have the sidewalks and the lighting and maybe a canopy or whatever. It's a huge expense. And I'm just going back to my own belief, and Dr. Atkins and I have had this conversation before. I'm not a fan of the soft opening in a group of portables. It's something that I've seen firsthand, starting a brand new school with all the students actually in a brick and mortar building instead of some of them in portables. In my vote, I feel like I'm really over a barrel because there's no doubt that these extra student stations are needed. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but it's just, how did they come about? Was it an afterthought? Was it, and there's stuff circulating in the community that it was a mistake. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I have been listening to everything from here on the dais, and it just, I mean, I was in a brand new school where we had planned expansions, and I was at a school district in Texas where we had phenomenal growth, but I never heard of a brand new school before it even opens its doors having to add more student stations. So I'm really torn on this whole thing. Those are my comments.
Are there any other comments? Ms. Giovanelli?
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to finish. Yeah. So I am going to support it because we do need the space. We knew that we needed the space in 2016, regardless of what you're saying now, because we knew the growth was 1,500 students a year. Second of all, we were building a school in Bonita, and we decreased because we were in the middle of building and we decreased it because of it went over an expense. So we can change in midstream. I don't know why we can't now, but we can change in midstream. So, but I'm going to support it tonight because I know the need in East Lee County. It has been a dire need. In fact, we've neglected East Lee County, and we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to make sure that they have enough seats, and these students are not in portables, and they're in new buildings, and they have a black box. And I'm here to see that. My next 4 years will guarantee that. That's all I can do at this point. So I will be supporting that tonight, but I did ask a question of my fellow board members, and I do want an answer. I want to know who knew about this before it was on the agenda. I didn't get an answer, and I really want, I'm serious, I want to poll. If I have to make a motion, I'll make a motion to get that answer, because I'm not getting information, and I want to know how other people think this is okay, because this is not okay to charge our community additional monies to put an expansion on a brand new school in the middle of building another one when it's not even finished. So this is not okay, and I'm not going to take I'm not going to take this lying down. I want to know who knew.
Well, we received this 7 days in advance, so.
That's the only time I know. Nobody else knew. Well, then I don't understand why I think this is not right and not being quiet about it, and everybody else seems to be quiet about it. I just don't think that as a board and oversight, we need to be doing our job, and that is making sure that we have seats for students in schools. Brand new schools, they all need to have a seat.
Board members, let me try to respond in this way. I do believe there are ways that this had been communicated, and I'll be happy to provide that to you, whether it was board updates or one-on-ones. Regardless, believe me, every one of you receives information the same way. That is something that has been absolutely something we have not moved away from since this board made it an issue. We really strive to make sure that there's a comment today about an email. I'm going to go back and see why there better not be an email that wasn't provided to everybody unless it was a very specific question. That was something that came up earlier today in a briefing that one of you said that I'm going to go back and research, because that is what we strive to do, is every single person on this board receives the same information. The other piece is, again, Ms. Giovanelli, I think 2016 to now, remember, I think the big hinge here is the decision we made later to move Lehigh Acres Middle School to this new facility. So let's say we didn't do that. So Lehigh Acres Middle School sits there as Lehigh Acres Middle School and continues with that capacity. And then you open up a brand new building, and so you have 1,200 middle school seats right there. The difference now is that you've decided we're going to take this group of students and move it to this building and then renovate the old one. That's the difference, which is what changes the capacity mathematics that was different in 2016 than it is today. I don't disagree with anybody here regarding portables. We have talked about that, and we really think that, again, no portables on the new campus. Any portables that we would use would be the ones that are in existence today on the Lambs campus, just while we're renovating sections of the building. And Ms. Vaughn, just to speak to the Bonita Springs lesson, again, there's an example of we did what we thought was academically the most appropriate thing to do. The principal really felt strongly about it, because there are issues. You'll hear, if you talk to Nikita, she will tell you what the challenges are going to be opening up full bore at Gateway High School. But really, that was definitely the direction that I think we felt as a team. We needed the capacity in the zone. And so we pushed for, and we're going to do, once this group, that's in, they're in portables this year, but once that building is built, it's opening at full capacity. And that's a change that you all wanted. And I think, honestly, it was the best decision, even though it's academically it's a challenge. But we're going to have a full high school next year.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, well, first of all, and I just want to make sure Superintendent and everyone knows, I am in no way against the fact that you were giving Lambs a new school. And I have never said that I was against that. What the issue is for me, I live 10 minutes from where that school is. And when I knew, and I'm supposed to be representing that district, there was no groundbreaking, there was no discussion with the community. I found out about it, wrote word of mouth, and drove over there one day to find all of the everything all laid out, the concrete laid out. They were ready almost to put the walls up. And as the representative of that district, I don't think that happens to the other board members. They are integrally involved in things. They are also involved in things even in my district. They meet with community people and principals and everything on a regular basis and talk about things in my district that I'm not privy to. But that's a whole other thing. Last fall, when we were first presented the concept of the new school, the MM, and I had, up until that point, and you know, you say I badger. I'm going to continue to badger until things are right. I continued to badger about the fact that in the East Zone there were 1,900 students in portables, and 88 in the West Zone, and 22 in the South. And I know that that number has changed because everybody's not back in school, but it has not changed that much. My issue is, where are your priorities? That if you have 1,900 students over here versus 88 and 22, wouldn't you take all of your resources to just at least get them halfway down, to get them somewhere close to where everyone else is? I am not begrudging schools in any other zones, not at all. Build a way. After we get some of those 1,900 students out of a portable, and like I said today, I'll say this at the end about the black box, but, and when we met with the superintendent, with the Eastleigh Co-op, and we discussed back in the fall, why can't we have those other 12 rooms? And we were told at the time, we can discuss it, we can get community input. And I found out later on that almost while we were having those conversations, the project was being sent to, the RFQ was going on, the project was sent to DOE, and it was basically all lip service. Everything was continuing along as it was. That's why I get upset. That's why I continue to bring it up. There are inequities, and I will continue to bring them up, much to the chagrin of many people, but I can't turn my head and say, it's okay, go ahead and do it this time, because then there's another time, and another time, and another time, and we're still looking at kids in portables.
Dr. Atkins.
Just the one thing I wanted everybody to be aware, and Ms. Gittens, we are, as you know, I mean, we are working on trying to reduce the number of portables in the East Zone through construction. We do look at comparable districts, as you're aware, and I do think we compare very favorably. Of all the top 20, actually, largest school districts in the state of Florida in terms of the percent of student stations in relocatables or portables, we are one of the lowest 4 school districts of the top 20. There's Lee County, Hillsborough, Dade, and Collier, and then all the other school districts, the larger school districts in the state of Florida, have a much higher, many of them a much higher percentage of students in portables than we do. So while we are not where we want to be, and there is a larger percentage of portables now in the East Zone, I think we are really making a lot of progress toward this goal with the construction that we have going on in the East Zone, and we'll continue to make progress. So
Thank you. And I just have one comment to make on that, too. I know we, as a district, cannot control where people choose to live. In the Fort Myers area, it's so condensed, you're not going to get a lot of action in there. People are there, and there's not going to be a lot of people moving into that area. Whereas Lehigh is definitely a prime area where you have people just moving there. Cape is going to be the next one because there's open area. So we know that, and we know in the South Zone you have a lot of residents who are enjoy retirement here. So there's, each part of Lee County has a different a way about them, and we just have to adjust ourselves to adhere to what has taken place and try to do the best that we can do to get those kids out of the portables, to get them in the classrooms, regardless of location. That's something we need to work on. And so if there are no other further questions, I'm sorry, Ms. Fisher, do you?
I was just going to, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, I was just going to make a brief comment. We get ongoing updates. So that's how I knew about this, between the board updates and the presentations by staff and our one-on-one conversations, which sometimes include staff. And so one of the things, I was having a conversation with someone in Cape Coral the other day, and they were saying that the growth has outpaced the projections recently. So we went through a dry spell when we had the downturn of the economy, and we were not up to par with our renovations and our maintenance of buildings because we didn't have the money. Now we have the sales tax, which has been, all things considered, a great shot in the arm. And I think we are moving forward. And I think it is the board's job to set policy and to oversight. But I don't think it is our job to do the job. That's why we have staff, and that's why we contract with people like the project managers and the architects. And I was looking at the recommended action, and it says, this approval authorizes the approval of the ranking of the architects and to enter the negotiation process, and authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents. Approval is recommended to proceed with negotiation, and then that's followed by the execution of a contract according to the order of the ranking. So it's a constant work in progress, and that is why I'm not making any noise about it, because I feel like I've been informed along the way. And maybe I've been sitting on the board too long, but there is a process. And when we had the issues with Benita, then that resulted in changes. And we're much more sophisticated now in our process than we were before. And I understand that our newer colleagues don't have that experience to compare to, but we are constantly improving. Continuous improvement is a way of life in this district, and it's been remarkable, I think. So I want to say that I have confidence in staff, and we have issues that come up, and growth has been one of them. You know, the diminished funding that we have experienced over the years is another. I mean, we get much less from the state than we did, 10, 12 years ago. So I think we do need to proceed, and I will support this tonight because we do need the seats. And I understand that Lehigh is growing, as is the Cape, and I think we're going to see some need in the West Zone before we know it, because ground is breaking everywhere I look. So I just wanted to sort of balance this out by saying that we need to really be diligent and pay attention to the presentations that staff provide, and that we have the opportunity to ask the questions in our one-on-one sessions, and I know that staff is always available to answer those questions. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, one question. When
I'm going to
you're
get
ready.
Ms. Vaughn.
Listening carefully to the conversations or the statements by several of my fellow board members, it really is strange because it sounds like there's three of us that are protesting an aspect of this, but it seems like we each have different reasons for it. And as I stated, I really have a problem with a brand new school opening with portables and immediate extension for the school and that sort of thing. It just doesn't, there's just something about the explanation, and I'm not complaining that I didn't know. Yeah, I think I found out when everybody else did, but when I did find out, this just doesn't make sense to me. That said, as I said earlier, I feel like I'm over a barrel with this, and I will support it, but I'm really glad we had this conversation and put it out there. And to respond to something Ms. Fisher just said, yeah, trust staff, but ask the questions, or trust them, but don't put blind trust. All right, I'm going to restate that. We don't need blind trust for anyone at any level of government, from the federal government down to school board and smaller municipalities. We're here to do a job. We were elected, as Mr. Thomas said, to be watchdogs. And if my personal opinion is that this was not the best way to go, that we could have had been more proactive, and I wasn't on the board in 2016, so, but I did run unsuccessfully for school board at that time, and I can tell you that one of the things I pointed out at that time was that Lehigh Acres has been the stepchild of the school district. Thankfully, that has been, I believe, remedied to an extent in the last couple years, because I think Mrs. Gittens has been a great advocate for her area. But remember, we all represent Lehigh Acres, we all represent Alva and Bonita Springs and everything else. So I'm really pleased that we're making headway. I think the problem is that it was neglected for so long that we are running to play catch up, and I'm going to support it, but I just still have, it's more important to have those seats for these kids than it is for me to cast a negative ballot to show, well, I just, I'm gonna go in terms of what the kids need there.
Did you want to say something?
Just real quick, I mean, there's one of the things regarding communication in the October 23rd, 2020 update, there is it's a decision timeline for Lamb's expansion, so we were having that conversation, and it talks about, the full opening of in 2021 and continuing to use parts of the Lamb's campus. It also talks about the expansion could be included as a part of this project, which would allow for the completion of the project in a cost-effective manner, and that was along with J. It says the planning and design phase for elementary school J begins in the 2021-22 school year on the same site. The expansion could be included as a part of this project, which would allow the completion of the project in a cost-effective manner and would align with the capacity needs at that time. So that's, and there was also an accompanying graph that shows the 10-year east capacity forecast. So that's just, part of, when that conversation was at least started or ongoing. I think it actually was a response to a board member question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the date?
The date, yes.
Yeah, it's October 23rd, 2020, the board update.
Thank you.
And yeah, Ms. Bond, I agree with you. Actually, when I was an executive director in the East Zone, it really demonstrated. That's what, I mean, East Zone is near and dear to my heart, you know, because of what I saw and was a part of when I worked specifically with East Zone schools. And, you know, we did get hit with the recession, so we pretty much the school district stopped any expansion project with the exception of Dunbar High School and Tice Elementary. But, you know, when we did get those dollars in place, I think that has allowed us to really start to move forward more aggressively. And I know that's your goal, and we'll continue to work on it.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens, I'm going to have you do the final question, and then we're going to call for a vote.
It's a quick yes or no.
Thank you.
In the items, it states that what we are voting on is the scoring documents, and yet when it says approval authorizes the district to enter into negotiation, whatever, et cetera, and the superintendent to execute all related documents. My question is the documentation that was presented at the RFQ mandatory meeting that has already been sent to DOE, when we vote yes on this, does that trigger DOE to say the board has approved what you have?
Go ahead.
Dr.
I don't know if
Savage?
I believe what you're asking for is addressed in the spot survey, so that would reflect any kind of change. That's a separate board item that comes and calls out specific sites. So I just want to make sure I understand the question, Ms. Gittens. Is that the question you're asking for the state approval for?
I guess it is the spot survey. On the last meeting, when I brought this up, and I knew that paperwork had already been sent to DOE, and I spoke to someone at DOE, and they said all they were waiting for was board approval on February 9th. And yet our documentation says we're voting on scoring these positions. It does not specify that we are also approving a document that has gone to DOE.
I think we're conflating a number of issues here, so I just want to try to separate them out and clarify. What I believe you're speaking of, if you talk some at the state level, is we enter information to the EFIS system, EFIS, and that information is where that information that you see in like the spot surveys that are all board approved, where that information lives. So while it might appear that it's like in draft and sits in that database, like specifically the item that I think you asked about was relative to the Veterans Park and the current Lambs campus, and the numbers that are reflected in that would have to come to the board and approval. So the board would see, just like you would for any other spot survey that comes for your approval, you would see the numbers and what would be allocated at each site and what grade levels and all those things. So that we would not be able, through the board item that is in question today or any of the items that are specific for architectural services, CM services, those have nothing to do with the spot survey. That's a separate and distinct board item that you get the full discretion to vote on as a board member.
Okay. The final thing is, though, that all related documents needs to be spelled out. We need to know what those related documents, even if it's a list and I don't understand what it all means, please have it in there so I know what I'm voting on. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to please call for the vote. So all in favor, and this is hand vote, please raise your hand. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 6-1. Okay. Dr. Atkins, would you please read your recommendation for pulled item K8?
Yes, Madam Chair. Approval of the ranking for the RFQ, Construction Management Services for J Elementary and the expansion of MM Middle School.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation for K8?
Debbie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Vaughn.
I move to adopt Dr. Atkins' recommendation for, let's see, new construction of J Elementary and expansion of MM Middle School.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please? Ms. Morgan, thank you. Is there any discussion? I know that we have had quite a bit of discussion that crossed over on both of these, but I just wanted to make sure that we did two separate votes on it, so it was clean. Is there any further discussion on this, K8? Ms. Giovanelli?
No.
Ms. Gittens?
I would still like to say for the record that the section that says all related documents, that we be made aware of what that means. I would like to know what I'm voting on, not just scoring the vendors.
Thank you. Is there any other conversation or discussion regarding that? Seeing none, could we please have a vote, hand vote? Aye. All in favor, say aye. Okay. Aye. All opposed? Okay, 6-1, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're at, well, we've made it through attorney's recommendation. We have no public hearings. We are moved on to board members' comments. Ms. Giovanelli.
Thank you.
Please.
I just want to address a situation regarding the Booster Club situation that has been resolved. I just want to thank the parents that came forward with their concerns. I want to thank staff for working diligently on trying to make the corrections when we recognized that we had some deficiencies regarding how our processes are. So I also know that Attorney Bruno had completed her review, which is going to help us strengthen our system as it relates to the district's relationship with the booster clubs that are separate corporate entities. The district is working on a new cooperative agreement guidelines, and the booster club will have training. Clubs will have training. So I'm hopeful that we will alleviate future problems with booster clubs, and everyone will understand their roles and responsibilities and expectations to those types of disagreements that do not happen. I also wanted to, today we had, in our briefing, I was somewhat concerned over how, and deeply troubled over how everything came about today. And I want to touch on some of with my closing remarks about the reflection of some things that were said. It was kind of a verbal attack against Ms. Gittens, and we must not continue this kind of actions as a board. I myself have been treated unprofessional in a manner serving the board, and I will not remain silent watching it happen to another board member. And I want to make sure that we have to be respectful of everyone, and that's all means all. And I'm going to continue to support Ms. Gittens in her endeavors in actually advocating for East Lee, because it wasn't done so prior to this. So I think that's really important, that we, as a board, need to respect what she's saying. She lives in that area. She eats, breathes, sleeps there, and she knows it well. And we need to really be more respectful on this board. I just wanted to, I felt like that I needed to address that more tonight, this evening, because she left very upset, and that's not how this board should be operating. I've watched other boards operate, and the county commissioners are very respectful of each other, and I know that we can do that too. We need to stop being condescending, and that's the only way we're going to be better, is to be better. We have to do it. And our actions, people are watching, the community watches. We need to be the examples of what we expect our students to do. And if we can't do that, it's embarrassing. So I just want to make sure that these verbal attacks stop. And I'm here to say what can I do personally to make it better and not happen? So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giovanelli. Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, I'm going to say a few things. This afternoon, I shared my reflections.
Ms. Morgan, could you put the...
Thank you. This afternoon, I shared my reflections on my tenure as a school board member. In the past 6 years, we have moved steadily but aggressively toward our vision of ensuring that each student has access to high-quality educational opportunities. So as we began the district strategic planning review cycle for the 2021 school year, I began to appreciate how far we have come, and I went into this at more length this afternoon. And I commented about the commitment of the school district family to district progress despite the extraordinary challenges thrown at us this past year. So I just wanted to say thank you to staff. I am really grateful to be a witness to the great work being done in this district. So I feel it necessary to comment about the recent efforts to disrupt our work and distract members of our education community. My board tenure has also been marked by the relentless efforts of handfuls of people to harass, intimidate, belittle, humiliate board members, district leadership, and employees. And I'm not talking about those who encounter inefficiencies and flaws in our process and challenge our way of business. These challenges provide an opportunity for us to improve as an organization. I am talking about those who manufacture violations of policy or practice for the purpose of denigrating the district and those who work in it. This past year, members of the Lee County School District community have worked tirelessly, often at the expense of family and other important relationships and commitments, to make it possible for students to have access to quality education and for families to be confident that their children are learning in safe and healthy environments. Custodians, maintenance staff, food service workers, bus drivers, support staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, school leaders, and district leadership have worked extraordinary hours, often under the stress of uncertainty about what lies ahead. While juggling constant change and pressure to perform under incredibly challenging conditions, mistakes happen. Corrections and adjustments are made. But this bubble of instigators pursues steps that threaten to harm and foster emotional distress in employees throughout the district. So I'm talking about them and to them, the rabble-rousers, malcontents, inciting a Machiavellian political atmosphere here. People outside your vicious little bubble see you for that as well. You have no interest in improving the school district, only in derailing careers and disrupting progress. We decision makers are not influenced or deterred by your actions. Unfortunately, attacks continue, people are hurt, and Florida statute limits our ability as employers to protect you, our employees, from the most current one, a public invasion into your private sphere, a public invasion into the personal sphere of every employee in this district. So to our staff, I say, just know that to the limits of our statutory authority, we will work hard to protect and support you. And I want you to know my heart hurts for those who are being targeted cruelly. You deserve community celebration of your work, admiration for your flexibility and the creativity you exhibit during an upside-down time, and continued support for the challenging times ahead. I believe we have your back, and the superintendent is making plans for us to share that message personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ms. Vaughn?
Thank you. In less than 3 weeks, we will come upon the 1-year anniversary of the temporary shutdown of our schools by Governor DeSantis. And now, almost a year later, we see that in the interim, the world has turned upside down. I do want to, I have something else to say about how the school district has handled this, but I want to repeat something in different words that I said earlier today. Many of you who came to this building tonight for the meeting may have noticed the flag at half-staff. I want to make sure that you understand, it's very important to me that you understand why the flag is at half-staff. This is due to a proclamation made last night by President Joseph Biden. And he said, as of this week, during the dark winter of the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 500,000 Americans have now died from the virus. That is more Americans who have died in a single year of this pandemic than in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. On this solemn occasion, we reflect on their loss and on their loved ones left behind. We, as a nation, must remember them so we can begin to heal, to unite, and find purpose as one nation to defeat this pandemic. And so now I'm going to abridge this. In their memory, I hereby order that the flag of the United States shall be flown at half-staff at the White House and on all public buildings and grounds, all military posts, all naval vessels of the federal government in the District of Columbia and throughout the United States and its territories and possessions until sunset, February 26th, 2021. So to clarify, that's why you are seeing a half-mast flag. And in this past year, you know, little did we know almost a year ago that our world here is, maybe we can say, a microcosm of the entire world, because we are a global community, as they said at the end of the Revolutionary War, and the world turned upside down. All of you have struggled with the new normal. I'm sure most of you have been touched in some way with this horrible virus, either personally that you had it, a loved one, a neighbor, a friend. We've all been touched in some way. And I've been proud in the way that the school district has, to use a word that became very, very popular, the agility to make so many changes. I was on the original committee way back when we had, when we were developing the hybrid plan and, you know, coming up with things, and then, no, that's not going to fly because the state of Florida said, no, can't have that, you have to, et cetera, et cetera. And so we here have struggled to do the best that we can to help our students and our teachers and all of our staff members and those of us here who struggle with our own mental health, with depression, with job loss, and all of these things. And throughout this, the district, for better or worse, and for even battles over to mandate masks or not to mandate masks, we've been agile with it. So I wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to all the employees in this school district who have remained agile in this. HR has had to do a Herculean job of moving employees from one school to another school. At one time, our virtual school ballooned into an unbelievable number of students, and it's been a Herculean task there in the schools, the principals with their teachers and other staff, teachers that spent maybe 10 years teaching at a school, went to the virtual school, and then, no, right now, your school doesn't have an opening. And so, there have been a lot of disappointments. I have grandchildren in the school district, and I know my daughter has some medical issues that she and my grandson's dad were kind of nervous about sending my grandson, who's the great age, 8th grade. That's a great age. Bless the middle school teachers. But he's gone back to school recently, and he's just thrilled to be back in school and to see his friends and to see his teachers there. And so again, for every employee, from the bus drivers and cafeteria workers who were supplying meals when we had to, and through district staff, I say thank you. And there are going to be decisions that aren't popular, and there are going to be things that we argue about. But the bottom line is that it's a Herculean task. I'm hoping that we are at maybe a turning point. Dr. Fauci, I think, says maybe Christmas, but I'm hoping a little earlier than that. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Ms. Patrica.
I just have a question for Dr. Atkins. If you could, please provide this board with information showing the schools that have been built in this district over the past 20 years, in which zone those schools are located, to include additions. If you could also show, the amount of money spent in each zone on those constructions. Also, how half-penny sales tax revenue has been spent for construction, upgrades, additions, broken out by zone and dollar amount, please. I'm quite certain that I could probably gather that information by going on the incredibly thorough half-penny sales tax page, but I'm sure staff will be better at it than I am. So if you wouldn't mind, if that would take less than an hour and a half, I'd appreciate it. If it takes more than an hour and a half, I will ask for board approval. And the last thing I want to say, I gave my report, but the last thing I want to say, and I think Dr. Spiro will back me up on this, I have been all but stalking DAC, our District Advisory Council, to reach out to legislators to share their personal experiences with regard to testing, to ask for that grace and compassion to continue into this year. I think we've discussed at the table before the data shows the ineffectiveness of form emails or form letters being sent to our legislators, but reaching out with a personal story, how it's impacted you. Many of these legislators have never been in a school. Many of these legislators have no idea the impact of testing or COVID or anything that we do on a daily basis. So those personal stories, I think, are most effective. So if in your conversations with people out in the community, you could get them to reach out. For example, a second grade girl, little girl, came to school after having been virtual learning the entire year. The whole time the school had been reaching out to the family saying, these assignments are due, these assignments are due, and the family was saying, well, we're doing the assignments, we're doing the assignments. The girl finally showed up physically in school. None of the assignments were done, and the teacher said to the little girl, why aren't your assignments done? She said, I couldn't go to school. I've been taking care of my baby sister while my mom worked. So this is not a matter of parents not supporting their children in education. This is a matter of the reality of the lives of our students has been just unbelievably difficult to maneuver. So this is what I'm hearing from my colleagues across the state at FSBA. Please share those personal stories if you have them. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for the comments from the public comment section. I appreciate your support. I did not leave in tears. I left in disgust. So I will get back to that. The first things are Happy things. First of all, we had a presentation, a very good one, about our pre-K system and how that is so important to our students, because if they start off behind, they stay behind, and we're always trying to make up. And I say this so that if anyone is listening and you know someone that has a preschool student, I know that it's difficult right now because a lot of the ones that need to be there are the ones in the families like Ms. Patrica was talking about, and also in the families that have been hit hardest by this pandemic in the minority community, and they are afraid to send their babies to school because of that fear. So my suggestion, and I don't know where it'll go, but I'm suggesting, I was thinking about this last night, why don't we step outside the box? And what is the statement? If Mohammed won't come to the mountain, we go to the mountain, to Muhammad. And I would like to see us even think about having some type of physical toolboxes that we can give to these parents that still don't have their children there. Something that would help them learn their colors or learn their ABCs, or something that if they are busy trying to put food on the table and to take care of their families, the idea of going to an educational store or somewhere and buying those blocks or buying those things, that educational toys are not in the budget. That if we could provide something of an educational toolbox to give the ones, and then maybe that would encourage them after, they feel more comfortable to send their child and keep in touch with them that way. We have to find new ways to connect with our community. The old ways that we've done it are just not working, and they are not going to work. Fear trumps everything, and if you are fearful for your child, you're not going to send them to learn, and it's just a vicious circle. So that was a suggestion that I just throw out there. If you ever feel like, the world is just too big and crumbling down on you and all that, I suggest you go and visit Buckingham Exceptional Center. I had the great privilege of being invited to be there, helping give out awards and all that, and they had the Little Elites Program soccer tournament. Now, if you go onto my website, onto my Facebook page, I did a Facebook Live while I was out there. The look on their faces, the smiles, as these kids in wheelchairs were kicking a soccer ball that's like this big. And when they actually moved their foot and kicked it and got it down to the goal, there's just nothing that beats that look. And the smile on their face and the glee that they did, and putting the ribbon around their neck. If you ever want to get out of yourself and what's happening right here, take time to go and visit some of those kids. That's their life 24/7, and their parents and those teachers. I can't say enough about Principal Mosley and the teachers, and how much just sitting watching how they care for those kids. One little boy was sitting off, and I looked and I said, "What's wrong?" And he was just crying. I said, "What's wrong?" And his teacher came over, and a younger black guy, and he goes over and he says, "What's wrong?" He saw the teacher and he broke into the biggest smile. He didn't see the teacher and he wanted to see him. And the teacher came and sat with him and wheeled him over to get some water, and he was fine. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our world was that easy? Just to put a smile on someone's face. This afternoon, in our discussion about black boxes, and I left with the concept in my mind, black box versus portable. And when we think, one of my coworkers said, there's data that shows that academic improvement comes with black box theaters. I have no doubt that there is. But let's take that a little bit further. Who's in the portables? What percent of students? What types of students? Are we looking at mostly minority students? Are we looking at mostly working class families? Subject to, not being able to do everything for their child or be at school or bake the cookies or the cupcakes? Are we looking at the have and have-nots theory? While other students sit in a brand-new high school built for 1,600 and there's less than 700 students at that school. So I have continued and will continue to say for the next however year and a half that I'm here, equity, inclusion, and communication. There is no equity in that. We are opening up a brand new high school full with 2,000 or 3,000 students. And it's just not equitable. We talked about using 2016 data. I had the opportunity to meet with some county planners last week, and fascinating conversation at the growth and where it is and what's happening. And the east zone of Lee County has so many firsts. My head was spinning. We're the top fastest growing in this, and we're the fastest in that. There are a lot of things that are happening. But when we look at the building going on, you see all the new apartments around in Lee County. You know what the average price is? There's none lower than $1,400 to $1,600 for a one-bedroom studio apartment. So all these wonderful, beautiful apartments that we see happening are not for everybody. They're not for some of those families whose kids are going to school in portables. Black box versus portable, and I have said it on the dais before, and I will say it again. I have nothing against the arts. I love the arts. I went to a concert last Saturday night, enjoyed myself, and I will go again. But we have students that don't have those abilities, and I will not rest, and I will not stop saying it until something is definitely done. Not, well, we're putting this here. When Lehigh Acres Middle, when it was decided to move that to the new middle school, that did not lower our number of students in portables. There were like over 1,400 kids at Lehigh Acres Middle. And I asked the question back last fall, how many are you going to put in this building? Well, the building is for 1,400, but we're only building it for 12. I said, what's going to happen to the other 200-300? Who is going to have the wonderful decision to call those other 200 parents and say, your child can't go to the new school? They have to stay here. I just don't understand some of the decisions and how they're made and the priorities. And if you want to see where the growth is and how it is, go onto the proximity plan on the website and look at the scatter map where they're going to put the Innovation School, where they're going to put the Three Oaks School, and look at the little blue dots. And look at the areas around there that have so many blue dots that it's almost a solid blue. I don't understand that decision. Finally, I am, as some have said, in costume. I'm wearing this because it is the end of Black History Month. It's been 2.5 years, and I am still whether verbally or non-verbally being told to stay in my lane and stop asking questions. I have said over and over and over again, equity, inclusion, communication. Communication is the biggest issue with this district. And those that keep saying, oh, I am badgering staff and I'm beating up on staff and everybody. No, I am trying to make things better. And the staff members that feel that they're afraid of me, I've heard that, or, we don't want to talk to her because she'll really do this and that. No. John Lewis made a statement that when you see something wrong, say something. I have that on my Facebook page because that's what I have to do. I can't sleep at night if I don't do that. If I see something wrong and don't say it to you, whether you agree with me or not, I have to do it for me to have peace with myself. I have mentioned before, and I actually gave a document and passed it out to everybody, how we could include equity and inclusion in our strategic plan, very simply, just by adding 2 words to each one of our lines. I haven't heard anything else about it. I don't know if they'll accept it or not. But I have heard people say in different meetings, well, we have to make sure it's equitable. And whether you take the suggestion and put Gwen Gitten's name on it, it doesn't matter. As long as I can look back at the end of 4 years and say, what did I leave behind? I made everybody remember to be equitable and inclusive and to watch how you communicate with others. Maya Angelou has a quote that's also one of my favorites, and it says, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I have tried my best to make that not true. I have wanted to sit and talk with Maya Angelou and say, no, that's not true. But it's proven to me day after day after day. Equity, inclusion, communication. That's why I'm here. I don't know about anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens. Ms. Fisher?
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. The first thing I want to do is to appreciate my colleagues on the board and want you to know that I value and respect your comments and your input. As my part of the strategic plan, I work with largely with Lee Health, Healthy Minds Matter, and the Lee Healthy Lee Steering Committee regarding mental and emotional wellness. Members of our counseling and mental health staff are on a lot of those committees with me. The members of the committee from all over the community continue to be more and more interested about what we're doing here, and they continue to offer us more services and partnerships, and I value that also. I think that we couldn't be doing what we're doing now without the help of Lee Health, Salis Care, the Drug Free Coalition, a Hanley Center, and several others. So we have a newly deployed community family response team, and they in each zone, and they continue to receive referrals for students and families impacted by COVID-19 and in need of mental health and other supports. 70 mental health professionals have been trained, and Cape Coral High School was the first school to offer the group and is concluding a 10-week facilitation at this time. Elementary school mental health professionals are in the process of completing training, and they will be starting facilitation of groups at those schools in the next few weeks. Tonight, as we speak, there is a school counselor from Diplomat Elementary who is providing a virtual educational production tonight for parents and community members, which were prompted by her having 5 students, 4 of them threatened suicide and 1 attempted. This is at elementary school. So our situation with our students is quite serious, and with our partners in the community, we continue to, and along with the state, we continue to fund additional mental health services. Some of the things that follow that are NBC has run a week-long series which called Kids Under Pressure, which reveals the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on student well-being and academic engagement. During that special, and I tried to keep up with it as best I could, some quotes came out, and one was that we are testing and tracking kids and not necessarily developing them. Many students were interviewed in this special, and I was quite impressed with the way that they exhibited their resilience, and they identified problems connected with distance learning and not being able to have their social connections with their peers. And many of them came up with, along with identifying the problems, with solutions. Some of them even started businesses and became entrepreneurs. One of the people who were interviewed said kids are not being left behind now. They are living a very important part of history, and they're learning from it. Families, like Ms. Patrica said before, have become more appreciative of one another. So along with the challenges and the difficulties, I think that we have learned a lot. With that, we will be reconvening our School Board Student Advisory Committee in March. The School Board Student Advisory Committee started in 2014 and was an opportunity for students to participate in the continuous improvement in our district and to be the voice telling what the kids need. We heard our public speaker this evening, Ms. Pena. Melanie? Yes, thank you. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about the Wellness Wednesdays, because what we need is more information from the bottom line is our kids. This is why we're here. We are here for our students. And speaking of that, the information will be on the website. On March 1st, we'll be meeting the second Wednesday of each month, March through May, and then we'll be continuing again in the 21-22 school year. So what I have noticed is that everybody has been working double time and very hard and keeping this district moving in a direction that really has been remarkable. I had a visitor from New York the other night, and they're like, we can't believe your schools are all open. That's amazing. And it is amazing because all hands have been on deck. So kudos to the superintendent, his executive staff, as the leaders, all of the people at the schools, and to include all of our stakeholders in the community and the parents who are sending their kids back to school where they need to be. So I just wanted to say I do appreciate that, and I am proud to serve and be on this team. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I just have a few things. And you just reminded me when you said all hands on deck. I was at the Golden Apple event the other night, and I was speaking to some of the teachers there who they are working diligently, as well as the administrators, to make sure that all the children are educated. And when I was speaking to one principal, he was sharing how one week he had 25 teachers out, 25 teachers. And even though he had the 25 out, he had all hands on deck. The students had no idea that they were out. Administration jumped in, went into the classrooms. Everybody did what they had to do to make sure that those kids still had a successful day. So I really, and I asked him if I could share it, and he said, please do that. So they are doing an exceptional job. Ms. Vaughn, I really appreciate your reflection on this year. I mean, it has been a year for all of us. So I really appreciate you sharing that, your thoughts on that. Ms. Morgan, I really appreciate the fact you sharing and speaking about how much we appreciate the staff and protecting them. We definitely want to make sure that they understand that we do appreciate you, we care about what goes on, and we are here. As far as equity and inclusion, I think that we've spoken about that, and it hasn't fell on deaf ears. We definitely are, I believe that we do work to make sure that to provide that into everything that we do here at this district. Communication, we have to continue to work on that. And that's going to me, it's going to be an everyday work in progress. But I thank you for bringing that to our attention. And then again, but I just want to say, I believe that we all need to support one another. We all are individual people. We all have things we want to say or discuss, and we have to allow each one of us to have the opportunity to say what's on our mind, say our thoughts. This is our opportunity to do that. And I know that maybe perhaps certain ones, or myself included, we may say things that may not sound, maybe it doesn't come out the way we've meant for it to come out, or maybe we could have changed a word or two. But I truthfully don't believe that anybody's really trying to offend or hurt anybody. They just want to be heard, just like the next one. And this is our opportunity to have that discussion and to be heard. And again, it is all about communication. That is like the big word. It's like huge, communication. And we just have to strive to make sure that we understand how we are communicating. And if we feel that we are doing something that somebody's not quite getting, we need to be told that too. Let us know that, we hurt your feelings. Let us know that we're not, maybe this one key word shouldn't have been said. It should have been said this way. We're all human beings, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to, we have to strive to be the best people that we are. And that's pretty much all I have to say this evening. Dr. Atkins, do you have any comments? I'm sorry, Mr. Bruno.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Atkins?
No comments given the late hour, except to say just thank you to all our board members for your kind words about our hardworking staff and how supportive our community has been of this reopening effort. I greatly appreciate that, and I know our community does as well, so thank you.
Thank you. The next scheduled meeting of the board, on Monday, March 8th, there will be a school board workshop at 1 p.m. On Tuesday, March 9th, there will be a briefing meeting at 1 p.m. and an action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no other business to come before this body and seeing no objections, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good evening. Be safe.